Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Your Excellency Nazira, the Ambassador of Malaysia to Thailand, Dr. Nashruddin of GMM, Dr. Vinay Dahlan, Dr. Jaran, members of the organizing committee, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I accept this invitation with a sense of humility, because the issue that you ask me to talk about is an extremely complicated issue. That's why I came with all these books, so that if I need some references, at least I can open up and show you. That's a scholar in me. I have been in the profession of diplomacy for the last 40 plus years, but deep down, I'm still a student who is always in search of more knowledge, more understanding, and more guidance. And when I say that, it is not very much far away from the issue that we are addressing today. I think the problem of extremism, the challenge of fundamentalism, and the derivatives of these two have something to do with the lack of what the philosophers would call the philosophical humility. Meaning, I know that I know very little. Meaning, well, in the tradition of Islam anyway, the wisdom from the pondok, from the madrasa, from the schools here in southern Thailand, southern Philippines, Malaysia, northern. The wisdom of the madrasa is at the end of your reading the text, the Quran or otherwise, with your students. The professors, the gurus, invariably invoke this phrase, Wallahu a'lam. And I can show you at the end of this book, Ibn Khaldun, the philosopher of history, 15th century, supposed to be the founder of many modern sciences, including history, including sociology, including anthropology, economics, ethnic studies. Ibn Khaldun, originally Yemen, but moved to Egypt, moved to North Africa. At the end of this book, Introduction to History, Human History, he said, God knows best. That's the tradition. The realization and the awareness and the passionate acceptance that I know very little, therefore I should hold back from making a judgment on other people. And the problems of fundamentalism, problem of the extremism have grown from this lack of accepting the fact that I know very little. So for moderation to take root, you need a philosophical understanding of the scholarship that you are pursuing, or the scholarship that underpins, that informs your intellectual exercises. You need that philosophical understanding that the realm of knowledge is forever open. And human beings are creatures of Him who are provided with hikmah, the faculty of reason, rationality, that we can use our mind to understand the natural phenomena. And the Quran and the Hadith and the tradition of classical Islamic studies are full of this recognition that human beings are animals with the ability to reason. Insanun natiq. So when I say moderation can only take place when you have that philosophical outlook, mindset, that I'm not going to be absolute about this issue. I leave some part of it for my fallibility. He knows. He knows more than I. So what I'm telling my students, or what I'm writing, or what I'm communicating, or what I'm pronouncing, what I am judging, maybe only 75% right, maybe only 50% right, maybe 50% wrong, maybe 75% wrong, maybe I am right only 25%. So, Dato, how do you propel the global movement of moderates if we don't go to the fundamental assumption of the message? Moderation means I restrain myself from calling you a kafir, from saying that what you're doing is haram, from saying that my opinion is the only one that is right, that is correct. The rest are nonsense. That's absolutism. That's dogmatic. That's the narrowness of the mind rather than the openness of the intelligence. I went to Oxford for a year. I never had British education. I was, and I am proud of that affiliation with Oxford. I bought a pin. In fact, the cufflinks are still Oxford. I bought a pin and put it here. Not this one. I walked into the Regent Mosque in London. And I was dragged by hand. Take that pin out. I guess the assumption is God doesn't want to know, doesn't need to know that you are affiliated with Oxford. But I said, MashaAllah, I didn't think anything about this thing. I am here to pray. I just happened to be here at the Asr time, afternoon prayer. I just want to pray. That's had nothing to do with my being here trying to pray with you, but this scholar, wheelchair from the Sudan, in white, said, take it out. You are not supposed to wear anything in the front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if you are moderate, you are not going to call that kind of judgment. If you are moderate, you will be reluctant to tell anybody else, to correct anybody else, to impose on anybody else your opinion on that particular issue. That's why I think we first have to address that philosophical, that academic, that intellectual foundation of what is moderation, what is moderate. So, to me, you have to adopt a new mindset. A mindset that would allow human intelligence, Ibn Khaldun call it, habit of intellection. Meaning you use your reasoning ability to deduce, to draw conclusions, to compare, to draw analogy, and to come to the conclusion what is what, which is right, which is wrong, on your own, by your own, with your own ability. Of course within the frame, of course within the hadith, within the Quran, but your own exertion, ijtihad, has to be there. And you are responsible for it. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Those who understand the Quran, Allah does not expect from anybody more than the ability of him or her. That soul. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. So it is the individual that is being called upon to stand up and do your own reasoning. Do your own analysis, do your own analogy. So get rid of that mentality of absolutism that our way is the only way. Everybody else is wrong. And nobody else understands the text, the hadith, and the heritage, the legacy that we have received 1,400 years ago. Nobody could make a judgment on that except me, us. That's the root of extremism. That's the root of absolutism. That's the root of conflicts among us and between us. Now here is a problem, and you have it in Malaysia, and they have it in Indonesia. It's called Arabization of Islam. Sultan of Yahoo, Ibrahim Iskandar, said, we have our own norms, we have our own values, we have our own culture, we have our own habits. What's wrong with our brand of Islam? It's our experiences collected, accumulated through years, 600 years of Islam here in the peninsula. And now everything had to be thrown away. And you have to accept absolutist view of the interpretation of the religion. Sultan Ibrahim Iskandar said, that's not right. Be careful about that. Indonesia, Nahdlatul Ulama came up with a video clip, Divine Grace of East Indies Islam. Again, 600 years of cultivation, 600 years of accommodation, 600 years of dialogue between and among cultures. 17,000 islands of Indonesia, 400 languages. A lot of serious dialogue, exchange, accommodation, refutation, acceptance, the process of civilizational accommodation, not the clash of civilization. And the Nahdlatul Ulama 100 years old, NU, came up with this divine grace from East Indies, Islam. MashaAllah. And asking the people of Indonesia, the largest Muslim in the world, country in the world, to pay more attention to your own heritage, your own product of your own reasoning, of your own experiences accumulated through the years. Third largest democracy in the world. And they have done a survey with the ISIS and with Daesh. How many of you oppose that? 79% of those surveyed in Indonesia said no. They did the same in Pakistan. 26% said no. Meaning 74% said so-so. I mean, we can go along with the ideology, absolutist, absolute dogmatic, fundamentalist, exacting, no flexibility. 26% in Pakistan said they were wrong. 74% might say we can live with that. So the issue now is this. The issue now is how much space is allowed for human intelligence. When Ibn Khaldun, when Hussein Nasr said the height of Islamic civilization was when, I have to make sure that you're not taking me wrong, that I'm not saying this, it's Hussein Nasr and Khaldun himself. Ibn Khaldun said, the height of science and technology and innovation in the Islamic community, the larger Islamic world, the height of it was achieved when non-Arabs work on those science, technology, and innovation. Hussein Nasr said, wherever Islam went, civilization, art, science, technology had gone to the height of it. Persia, India, Turkey, Spain. Why did he use that tense? Where Islam went. Fi'il madi, those who know Arabic. Why did he use has gone to? Why did Hussein Nasr did not use where Islam is? Why does it have to be the past? Well, I think Ibn Khaldun answered that. At the height of mathematics, the height of medicine, the height of philosophy, according to Ibn Khaldun, even Arabic grammar was done by Sibawai, a Persian scholar. Because 200 or 300 years after the text, after revelation, after Muhammad, the Persians, the Indians, the North Africans were asking, how are we going to get to the soul of the text if we don't know the grammar, if we don't know the language in which it was revealed? So Sibawai came up with the rule of the grammar of the Arabic language, a Persian. I submit to you that 1.5 billion people should continue that right to seek and search for the answers that the Ummah, the Muslim, are facing now in our interaction with the rest of the human family. 6 billion more. Because if you abdicate, if you reject that responsibility to bring from the text, from the book, from the tradition, and close your minds, the gate of istihaj is closed. From now on, you follow. Don't use your mind. People like Tariq Ramadan would certainly disagree with that. He said, Muslims in Europe must find their home in Europe. Try to make sense of the environment, sociological, political, economic, cultural of Europe. You can't live in Europe wishing that the environment would be the same as in North Africa. Make sense of your own existence in the context of Europe. That would require what Ibn Khaldun called the habit of intellection. The research that you want to do with the scholars of peace, Dato', and thank you, the ambassador, for supporting this effort. Each and every one of us as a community will have to find a way how to handle this environment which is pluralistic, which is a characteristic of globalization, which is the reality of modern world. $1.2 billion of us, I'm not talking of Muslim, but 1.2 billion out of 7.4 are tourists around the globe. And among them, a lot of Muslims. About 100 million are migrants. About 30 are refugees. Most of the refugees are Muslims, running away from their homeland. We have to answer that question. Why are we making that migration, facing dangers and perils across the sea, but we still would want to do it? Because somehow, back home, there's no protection, there's no security, there is no confidence. So you move, we move. And whom do we meet? People who are different. Diversity, which is part of humanity. But we have to make sense of that diversity. ต้องเข้าใจความแตกต่างหลากหลายนั้น It is not enough to say that, yes, all humanity is created from one pair, Adam and Hawa, Adam and Eve. Therefore, we are brothers. That's the message. But do we get to the soul of that message? Do we really live that message? Do we really bring it about and make it a part of our daily life? I respect you, you respect me. Together we reconcile and we want peace and harmony in our community, in our country, in our society. I think the responsibility is on all of us. And I understand this morning the Vice Chancellor, Vice Rector of the university brought this up. That this problem is not limited to the Muslim community. This problem is happening in the entire region. This hate speech, this we and you, this me and you, this separation, this isolationist kind of attitude, it's not only now, it is spreading. And that is going to be a challenge for all of us in this Southeast Asia Big C community called ASEAN. Tremendous diversity here. Only opening up to each other, respecting each other, mutual respect for each other, collaboration with each other, trying to understand each other. And to begin to do that, you can't hold that mindset, that absolute. Can't touch. Sultan Yaho said, if I want to shake hand with a woman, it's up to me. Don't tell me, it's haram. Yeah, a woman. Yeah. Yes, sorry. I mean, these kind of things that somehow characterize the accommodative, the moderate, the I think the word flexibility can bring me problem, but I mean, these are the kind of things that we accommodate each other through the ages. And we have to live with it. Let me drop another bomb. When you are used to absolutism in your political, economic, and social governance, when you only know absolute power, when government and state provides everything, you don't have to ask, we know what you want. When we have enough, we've been provided enough, we'll take care of you. You don't have to struggle. All of a sudden, they have to face the openness. And it's very difficult to understand that diversity out there. It's not the same as what we used to.